The Goat House is back with Week 15 NFL Power Rankings, ranking every single NFL team from 32 to 1 every Tuesday morning. Let's see where the teams fall this week. Remaining at 32 is the New York Football Giants. They actually played the Saints pretty tough, but came up short because of that blocked field goal at the end. The Raiders are going to go down a spot. Thought they could compete with the Bucs. That did not happen. O'Connell also got injured, so that definitely did not help them. Number 30, the Jags move up a spot after beating the Titans in an absolute barn burner, 10-6. Move up a spot. I don't think they're worthy of moving up much more than that. The Jets are going to remain at 29 after they had the Dolphins, though. I thought about swapping the Bears and the Jets, but is there any reason to? The Jets been a disaster as well. But the Bears, you thought they would have some fire after firing Eberflus, and that did not happen. It almost felt like they were worse. I think it's a coincidence. I don't think Eberflus being gone made them worse, but thought they would have a little bit more than that. 27, the Patriots going to stay put there. No reason to change some of these teams, but the Titans losing to the Jags. I mean, they easily could have won that game. They got down the red zone quite a few times, and they got stopped on fourth down quite a few times. I ended up swapping them and the Panthers. Even though the Panthers lost, they played the Eagles tougher than really anyone's played them recently. I'm excited for the future for the Carolina Panthers. But they've been playing teams tough. They had a little bit of a win streak, and they've been playing some even in losses, playing some good. What's with the schedule, too? They had a tough schedule down the stretch. It's like a sneaky team that you really don't want to have to play right now. So they're at 25. Browns, yeah, it seems like every other week they play well and then they don't. And they've had some impressive moments over the last few weeks, so we'll stay put there. Cowboys definitely improved over the last 3 or so weeks. They let one slip through against the Bengals. That botched special teams play at the end really cost them in that one. Saints beat the Giants. Wasn't overly impressed. It felt like they really missed Taysom Hill. They shouldn't really. I know he's a unique, good player, but they really shouldn't miss him that much. But they do find a way to win still. No reason to move them up. The Falcons continued to disappoint. They were playing with the Vikings for a bit. It did kind of feel like they were playing keep up, though, as we had to get back. And they were doing that for a little bit, but then it was just a meltdown. The defense was awful. I mean, Cousins still turning the ball over, and then the special teams error as well. So they're going to be at 21. They got the talent. I feel like they got to click at some point, but it's kind of obvious Kirk Cousins just isn't fully himself after that leg injury, of course, which is unfortunate. The Cardinals have been one of the more disappointing teams off the bye. Kyler Murray as well. I mean, they can't beat the Seahawks. They can't put a full game together. They always start pretty decently, but we're losing faith in the Cardinals after we were just starting to get super high in them before that bye week. So pretty tough, but I mean, that division's so tight that they have a chance to get back on track here. So let's see. And again, our weekly pick show every Tuesday night is coming up tonight for Week 15. Excited to see who I decide to pick and the other guys pick. So join us, turn notifications on, subscribe so you don't miss any of that. But the Bengals, wasn't overly thrilled, with them in the Cowboys game. They did finally win. They finally closed the game out, right? A little bit of luck on that special teams at the end, but on the special teams play, more of a botch by the Cowboys on a block. Weird play, but it's funny because the Bengals finally closed one out, but I was a little higher on them in those Ravens games, when they barely lost those Ravens games. So I don't really feel like they're getting better right now. So they're going to stay put at 19. 18, Colts had a bye. They'll stay put. And then 17, the Niners will jump up a bit. I mean, a dominating victory did it for me. I mean, teams around this range, they're all losing or they're all barely escaping the Bengals. The Colts on a bye. The Niners going out there and just absolutely dominating a team that, a lot of people were picking the Bears because they just fired Eberflus, and the 49ers are very beat up as you can get, as injured as you can get, and this game was over instantly, so give them some credit there. Is it that time where they finally click in and go? I mean, we'll learn that this week. 49ers, Rams, Thursday Night Football. Can't wait for that game. Can't wait to see who we pick tonight in the picks video. Buccaneers go up a spot. Good win against the Raiders. Let's see if they can kind of keep rolling here. If they have to play any tougher competition, how would they be? Baker's turning the ball over a little bit more. They're allowing more pressure to get after him, so that's kind of the difference. Even when they were losing games, like that really wasn't happening much. So it's a little weird. They're winning, but there's that issue going on. The defense is playing a little bit better recently, which is big because the pass defense is what was costing them some games before. So let's see what's different about the Bucs going forward and if it's for the better. So far, they're starting to win some football games after they were coming off a big losing streak. Dolphins did win the game, wasn't overly impressed. They ended up moving down a spot because somebody else had to move ahead of them. But if they went out there and just dominated the Jets or took care of business fully, then it would have been very tough to move them down below this other team that moved up. Not that head-to-head's everything, but because of a head-to-head, but I wasn't overly impressed. Another team had to move up ahead of them. Texans were on a bye, same situation. Another team just had to move up. Texans have been super disappointing recently, but I keep mentioning this in videos here and there. The Texans have the opportunity to be very, very sneaky at this time of the year and into the playoffs because they are built for this time of the year in the playoffs. I mean, I keep saying it. They have the recipe. They have the players here and there. There's not too many teams with a dominant pass rush, like both sides, a crazy duo edge rush group, and just there's usually I feel better about a list of teams pass rush for them, which is huge in the postseason. The Texans have my favorite one, so are they saving stuff? Do they turn it around? And they could be very sneaky, but lately they have been the opposite of that. They have looked very disappointed. They're relying on Joe Mixon to get going, and the pass defense is actually struggling a bit as well. So I'm waiting to see here. Right now, coming off the bye, and before that, they haven't been overly impressive. Still can't believe they lost to the Titans, but it's one game. But the Commanders were off a bye. Same situation. There's just another team that just had to move up because of their performance. So unfortunate for these teams that they end up moving down. Commanders kind of luck out. They're going to play the Saints without Derek Carr. I think they're better than them anyways. They probably would have won, but you never know. They lost to the Cowboys a few weeks ago. Broncos, they've been playing very, very well, been impressive. Same situation. Off the bye, other team just had to move up, so they end up moving down a spot. Chargers go down 2 spots. Been disappointed with them recently. I know they beat the Falcons last week. The offense, it's like the beginning of the year, it's like they're winning some games, but the defense is doing it. The offense is so underwhelming, and they were just benefiting from playing easy, weaker teams. And then whenever they played some good teams here and there, they would lose. And then all of a sudden the offense got going, and they started getting impressive. And now it's kind of going back to the beginning. And every time they play a good team, they lose. So not overly thrilled with them. I still view them as a good team. To me, the Chargers and the Broncos are like in the same boat. I know the Broncos are a little hotter recently. The Chargers have felt better for majority of the year, so that kind of makes it a tiebreaker, and that kind of goes with a rare head-to-head. It ends up breaking the tiebreaker there, and the Chargers did dominate that game. I'm curious to see how when they play each other again, like how they go against each other again. But the Chargers down 2 spots. They had the Chiefs game. I honestly wasn't overly impressed with either team in that game. The Chargers scoring 0 points in the first half was actually more bad offense than it was good defense by the Chiefs, but it was a little bit of both. 10, here's that team that just had to move up ahead of all these teams, all the bye teams, the Rams. I mean, you go out there and beat the second hottest, the hottest team in football in the Buffalo Bills. You score 44 points. Yeah, the defense we can, pick on a little bit, but going against Josh Allen and the Bills offense was awesome in this game. Stafford, awesome. Puka Nacua, awesome. Kyren Williams, Cooper Kupp. Offensive line got better, which has kind of been an issue. They're a little beat up, and some of those, they got healthier, and it almost felt like they got worse, but they got some new pieces on the offensive line. Remember in the offseason, and even the guys last year that were new, they're new. So you just need more reps. It makes sense. Need more reps together, and it starts getting better. So it kind of makes sense there. You still wonder, is it the best offensive line? Not really. It wasn't a flawless performance by any means. But that offense is fun. McVay always seems to, look at the Super Bowl year, always seems to save stuff, I feel like, has some things in the back pocket. Just some looks, not even necessarily like crazy plays, just some different looks, play designs. Yeah, nothing super crazy. He saves it for this time of the year. The Super Bowl year, they saved it completely into the playoffs, and I kind of felt that coming too. So this is the time where McVay and his guys kind of get going. They showed it against the Bills, especially on offense. They play the Niners this week, Thursday Night Football. That is a massive game for both these teams. I mean, it can't get any bigger than that. So excited for that game. Excited to see who we pick in tonight's show. Make sure to like, subscribe, to notifications on. Seahawks, speaking of the NFC West, they're rolling right now. They dominate the Cardinals both times. And they look good on defense, especially they were a little beat up. They got those guys back, a few weeks back, more than that, and now they're really getting going. They're a playmaking defense, but they also can be a lockdown defense. And the offense has that ability, that potential to be explosive down the field, underneath. Charbonnet got going, so this is a team with potential still, and this is a good time to be winning football games. It's a great time to be winning football games and still have potential, because teams just don't know what you're about yet. And right when you get in the playoff time, it's like, we don't want to have to deal with that team. So it's a perfect time for that. So really excited about the Seahawks. I think I'm doing very well in picks this year, but I think my worst thing of the year was I picked the Cardinals to beat the Seahawks both times. I picked the Cardinals to beat the Seahawks both times. I think I'm an idiot. I don't know why. That was my worst, I think, moment in picks this year. So shame on me for that one. Seahawks dominate that series, and they continue to beat the Cardinals. It's going to be tough for me, even in the future, to pick anyone other than the Seahawks in that one. But yeah, Seahawks-Rams are the ones heating up in the NFC West. The Cardinals are really cold, and the 49ers, are they starting to heat up? We'll see. Starts with the Rams this week. Top 8, Ravens going to stay put. Honestly, a team that's a little underwhelming, but still we know that's a very, very good team, but they are off a bye. Let's see if they can kind of get things going here. Packers did lose. They put up a good fight. That game could have went either way. I think they did enough offensively to win the game, but not so much defensively. I know people are not happy with the calls in that game. There's been so many of those games this year. But at the end of the day, they just didn't stop the Lions, I should say, enough. They didn't stop them enough, especially on fourth downs. You can't let that happen. They scored twice on fourth downs, and there's more fourth downs than just that. Obviously, one at the end of the game. So it's just, even if you agree with the calls or that their calls were bad in the end of that game, it's just you have to execute. You have to show up here. But the Packers do feel like they're getting better. Definitely on offense. Jordan Love actually looks healthier. He's making some throws that not too many guys can make, and he still has some off moments. But Josh Jacobs looks good. Honestly, if they would have came out running the football right in the beginning of that game, I think they would have won it. But no reason to move them down. The Ravens haven't been that much more, or any more impressive than the Packers recently. I think the Packers are a team that's heating up. 6, Steelers are going to stay put. A team you want to move up as well. It's tough with the teams up here. But yeah, a little sketchy start against the Browns when they figured it out without George Pickens. Great defensive performance. It's a different Steelers team because you could trust them on defense, of course, and on offense. I love that. So I'm very curious about the Steelers in the playoffs this year. It's a different Steelers team, like I keep saying. This one's tough. The Bills go down 3 spots. You could say one loss, like really 3 spots. It is tough, but look at the teams that are around them, and it was an ugly defensive outing in that game, and it's a bad time of the year. Like, this is where everyone kind of shows what they got for that playoff push and then for the playoffs, and I'm always looking at this time. Week 14 going on, I'm always looking for that team that's serious. Which team's going to get hot at the right time, and their defense getting exposed like that is not great right now. So they are going to go down 3 spots, and kind of to compare, I know there's going to be some complainers about the head-to-head. There's 32 teams. How many games? There's been 14 weeks of football games, so it's usually a tiebreaker, but there is no tiebreaker here because there is a 2-loss difference between the Chiefs and the Bills. You could argue the Bills been a little more impressive in their wins. The Chiefs defense never did that, what the Bills just did at the same time, but there is a difference in the losses here. But the Chiefs, I didn't see a reason to move them up. I wasn't overly impressed with the Chargers-Chiefs game. I know they played good defense in the first half. I thought it was more so lack of execution from the Chargers offense, and the Chiefs were kind of just dead on both sides of the ball in the second half, and it just took one clutch, classic in which they did it. They're very good at closing out games. It's not pretty right now, but they're doing it. They still have one loss. They've been just getting by. They're at number 4. Actually, somewhat of a similar team here. The Vikings move up 2 spots, and I say somewhat similar because I think these are the 2 best teams at closing out games. Well, you probably could say the Lions too, but the Lions usually just blow teams out, so we're not talking about it too much. So that's good. You want to be there, except for the last one they closed out. As good as you can, as risky as you can, but as good as you can. But off topic. Vikings and Chiefs, they have these sketchy close games, and they just figure out how to close it out. Not this past week, though. The Vikings dominate the Falcons, even though it was close for a little bit. I'd say the difference, though, it's funny. It's actually really weird. The difference between the Vikings and the Chiefs, even though they're those closers, they figure it out. They got a great record. Offense, and you would think Mahomes in the Chiefs, right, over Darnold and the Vikings. No, the Darnold Vikings offense is much, much more explosive. So that'd be the difference, the tiebreaker between those 2 teams. Is very much impressed with the Vikings the last 2 weeks. They didn't show up against the Cardinals, and they still found a way to win the game. The second half, the fourth quarter was absurd when they were sleeping for most of that game. I actually like that. That tells me something in that game. And the Falcons this past week, that's an elite offensive outing. The big thing here, they got a quarterback. Sam Darnold is legit getting better. So now I'm like, all right, we got to watch out for the Vikings here. The defense starting to come back down to earth, but they still make turnovers. They make plays. They don't break in the red zone. So Vikings, very impressed. Move up 2 spots to number 3. And it's just funny how we can compare them and the Chiefs as closers, but it's really weird. The Vikings have the better offense. Eagles, wasn't overly impressed with this outing, but they win. They beat the Panthers, who are a pain in the ass to deal with lately. And they still have that elite run game. They know how to close games as well. They still can play defense, even though it took a little bit of a step down this week. But overall, the last several weeks, they've been hot. You could say they have the best defense in football. Maybe that's up for debate with the Steelers, perhaps. The Seahawks defense is really balling lately. I'd say it's the Eagles right now. That's kind of what I'm watching for. That is the big thing I am watching for. Am I worried about the Eagles' offensive playmakers, their run game? Absolutely not. I mean, it's got to stay healthy. So we got to hopefully, knock on wood, they stay healthy because they got some guys that got beat up with these. But what I'm watching is that defense, where that defense, it's not going to be like last year, but their defense just went completely south. I mean, what the hell happened at the end at the worst possible time? There was more of a game plan out for it. It's not going to get like that. But right now, it's the best defense. But is there going to be more of a game plan for it at this time of the year? We see that a lot with teams. And is it going to be is it going to be elite level still? So that is something, can they hold that? Can they just hold on throughout the rest of this season in the playoffs? But they are much deserving of being in that 2 spot at going up 1. And the Lions are going to remain at 1, getting a key win against the Packers. The Packers are another top team in the NFC, so that was a clutch win. You start to wonder about the defense. They a lot of man coverage. Typically, the teams that run that much man coverage, it doesn't go well at down the stretch of the season in the playoffs. Like the Cowboys' defense was always great, all year, and then at the end of the season, the playoffs, it got so predictable because of the amount of man coverage. So do they start to switch it up? That's what I'm looking for. But yeah, they're allowing a lot of separation because of everyone and their mother knows they're in man coverage, and then just not having Hutchinson out there and just being extremely beat up on the defensive line. Even linebacker Anzalone. Are they going to get some guys back soon? So that's kind of what we're watching there. But what we are very confident in is that offense, the best offense in football. They could beat you at the run, the pass. They could beat you on 4th down, the unexpected moments, and that's how they continue to be clutch and win these football games. So they are still at number 1. Big game. We talked about multiple times. The Rams versus the Niners, but how about the Lions versus the Bills this week? The Bills, you start to worry about their defense. The Lions, you can move the ball on their defense, but the Lions are very beat up. But so you think that maybe the Bills have the edge there, but then the Bills' biggest weakness is stopping a run. The Lions' run game is something you don't want to mess with. So that's going to be a freaking game this week. So I'm excited to see that one again. Once again, excited to see who we pick in our weekly pick show, which is every Tuesday night. Loads of NFL content every single week, several videos. So join us, subscribe to Roke Zom. But that will do it for the power rankings of Week 15. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.